science is about to change your life. I am Stephen Hawking, and I'd like to give you a glimpse of your future.
Wow!
In this series, 5 top scientists will investigate game-changing innovations.
This is pretty mind-blowing.
The shockwaves of progress are heading your way. We'll show you how you'll be safer, play harder, connect faster, live longer, see further, and get smarter. With the technology at our disposal, the possibilities are unlimited. So welcome to the science of the future. I believe that one of this decade's defining characteristics will be connected technology. Machines are being networked, different disciplines and industries are coming together. Hyperconnectivity is bringing us revolutionary breakthroughs and even new fields of science. By sharing ideas, incredible new advances are suddenly becoming possible. Even the greatest machines we've ever built require our input to give them tasks and keep them running. The problem is, most of them can't make informed decisions the way we can. They are essentially dumb. But connect machines together, give them the means to gather information about the world around them, and then share it with each other, and we could open up exciting new possibilities for the quest to create genuine artificial intelligence. Jim Al-Khalili is in Zurich, Switzerland, to investigate revolutionary new technology that enables machines to teach each other and make their own judgments.
Scientists at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology are testing a breakthrough concept known as an intelligent feedback loop with a new generation of machines. It's unlike anything we've seen before. These quadricopters are powered by one of the most extraordinary artificial intelligence networks on the planet. Right now, 4 mini choppers are in training for a slalom course test.
We've set out the slalom poles. What are you going to get the quadricopter to do?
It will fly the slalom a couple of times above the poles, learning, much like an Olympic slalom skier, it has to learn this first.
Right.
It'll do this through repetition. It will fly the course a few times, and once it can fly the slalom accurately, it will drop down and fly the slalom full speed ahead.
With the latest in microprocessor technology, the quadricopter is programmed with a unique learning algorithm that's linked back to a central computer.
And you can see it's tracking here on the screen the path it's taking.
Exactly. Here we can see that were it trying to fly through the poles, it would be hitting them. As it flies the slalom trajectory, it records its position 50 times per second. This information is then sent back to the algorithms in these computers. And at the end of each attempt, it looks at where it was and where it should have been. And then the next attempt, it compensates for this error.
This is the intelligent feedback loop at work. Having learned the course, it's time to put the tech to the test.
Now it's dropped down, so it looks like it's ready.
Yep, it's ready to go, Jim.
Perfect, and you can see its track here. It's learnt.
It's beautifully through all of the poles.
Once the first machine has cracked the challenge, it can transfer its knowledge to other ones that have never attempted it. No trial and error needed for them. They can do the slalom perfectly, first time.
Now that's impressive. Not only do these quadricopters learn by experience, but they can then immediately share that information with all the others. The
processing is so fast, they can learn highly complex tasks far quicker than humans will ever be able to, updating their decisions based on the decisions of the others. But how will this technology cope with a highly complex task like balancing an object? Dr. Raffaello D'Andrea is the project leader.
So Jim, we've got a task for you. See if you can balance the stick on your finger.
Okay. Now, I'm normally quite good at this.
This is a challenge for even a moderately coordinated human.
And of course, it takes a lot of hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, there's really three things that are going on here. First, you have to observe the stick. You have to process the information as to what you're going to do, and then you have to move your hand to actually balance the stick.
Now that's a lot of processing power. The quadricopters do, I admit, a better job than me balancing the stick. But can they go further and do something I probably couldn't do at all? Does this intelligent feedback loop give them the ability to throw the stick to each other?
Wow! That's incredible. How are they doing that?
There are 8 cameras mounted on the ceiling which serve as an indoor GPS system. That information is then sent to several computers. Commands are then sent to the vehicles at a rate of 50 times per second. The vehicles then execute those commands internally at 1,000 times per second. So the complete loop takes about 20 milliseconds to execute. From sensing, figuring out what to do, and then sending information to the vehicles to decide what to do.
So that's 10 times faster than a human could do it.
Sorry, at least 10 times faster, if not a couple of hundred times faster.
But the important thing to point out here is that they're not being remotely controlled by a human operator.
That's correct. The system is fully autonomous. In fact, it'd be impossible for a human being to even fly the vehicle to balance the stick, let alone figure out how to throw it up in the air such that another vehicle can move underneath it and catch it.
Wow!
So the machines can pass a stick from one to the other. But what if you introduce an unpredictable factor, something that they're not in control of? In the next test, the high-speed processing and information sharing will need to calculate the trajectory of an object that's thrown at random and then make decisions about how to act.
So here you go, Jim. Just go ahead and throw the ball roughly, in the area where the vehicles are, and they should be able to intercept it and catch it. Okay?
Wow!
Nice one.
Nice one.
And what they'll do now is they'll come a little bit closer and attempt to throw it back to you.
Throw it back to me.
Yeah.
Very good. So what is this demonstrating?
So what you're seeing is something that clearly one vehicle could not do on its own. So they're working together to achieve a very cooperative and dynamic task. They have to work together, otherwise the net couples them. So they could, one could pull the net in one direction, one could pull the net in the other.
And the quadricopters can take it one step further. They can actually throw the ball to each other with pinpoint accuracy. As proof of concept, this is mind-boggling. Machines with decision-making capabilities that are faster and more accurate than ours. Are we finally entering a new era?
And when do you think this sort of technology might start to make an appearance in our everyday lives?
I mean, slowly but surely they've been making an impact now, but I think you will see that accelerate simply because we have the capability now to network all this knowledge. So I think you will see the network effect increasing the capability of these machines.
So we're talking about the next few years, basically.
I think so, yeah.
By 2018, RAF believes this technology will be fully realized and working all around the world. Even by conservative estimates, 7,500 similar devices will be flying in US skies alone. The promise of networked machines is a tangible example of a hyper-connected world, one with machines that can teach each other and collaborate without human intervention.
This is such an impressive advance in artificial intelligence. These machines are a lot cleverer than I expected. You know, I'm genuinely impressed by what I've seen here today. They aren't just clever toys. One thing's guaranteed though, technology like this will only get smarter. Now it's just showing off.
As more machines develop the capacity to work on networks, humans will become their overseers rather than their masters. I can imagine countless ways this kind of technology could explode into everyday life. Helicopter couriers, fleets of driverless trucks, waiters, surgery assistants. It's all possible, and I think inevitable, by the end of the decade. Innovations are also being developed using connections that operate on a microscopic scale. How can a tiny and popular ocean creature go from being dinner to saving millions of lives a year? One of the most abundant creatures in the ocean has hidden properties that could save millions of lives each year. Shrimp exoskeletons contain a natural binding agent. Daniel Kraft is going to investigate how scientists are making use of it for a new blood clotting agent by tinkering with connections on a molecular scale.
Car crashes kill over 30,000 people in the U.S. every year. Many of those deaths happen because of the time it takes for first responders to reach the scene and get victims to the hospital.
I'm here at the University of Maryland, in a suburb outside of Washington, D.C., to meet a team taking technology from nature, optimizing it for a new solution to bleeding and trauma.
The use of crustacean shells in human healing was discovered in the early 2000s. But this lab is taking it to a new level. The developers are bioengineers Matt Dowling and Professor Srinivasa Raghavan.
Great to meet you.
We started talking to doctors at a medical school in Baltimore, and they were telling us about how current hemostatic bandages that are designed to stop bleeding are not very effective. And the aha moment came a couple of years later when Matt came on board.
Matt and Srinivasa study nanoscale gelling properties of polymers.
It's at that time that we said, let's put two and two together. We have a material that works on cell-like structures. Could this also work on blood?
The exoskeletons produce a material called chitosan. These bioengineers have found a way to enhance its natural properties by adding tiny filaments to it that create a nanoscale mesh when mixed with blood that then leads to a clot.
So this is your lab?
Yes, this is our lab, and this is chitosan, which is the basis for hemogrip. So here we're going to take that same powdered chitosan that I just showed you, and we're going to dissolve it up in a beaker to get our reaction going. And after this, we're going to add a small amount of weak acid to it. Chitosan requires slight acidity to dissolve in water. It takes quite some time to dissolve fully, so in the right-hand side, we have an already dissolved beaker of chitosan. Into that, we're going to add reagents that transform the regular chitosan into hemogrip. And what we're doing here is actually just adding fat molecules to the backbone of chitosan. It allows it to self-assemble to form physical seals when in contact with biological fluid and blood.
This fat lies in wait until it comes in contact with blood. When that happens, the enhanced chitosan gets to work, forming a biological seal as strong as plastic wrap.
Great, so this is your magic sauce. This is essentially your bio-bandage in a bottle. Can we see it in action?
Sure, let's go check it out. So Daniel, first, let's look at regular chitosan and its clotting properties. So Ian, why don't you add some blood to the chitosan, and we're going to pipette into a solution of regular chitosan, mix it up for just a second, and then let's invert that vial. And we see when we mix it up with the blood, it remains as a freely flowing viscous liquid. However, when we add that same amount of blood into the same volume and weight of hemogrip chitosan, and we see that very quickly it forms a gel that holds its own weight upon vial inversion. So here you can check it out. We can then take...
In this case, the modified chitosan clotted the blood immediately. Chitosan can make blood 1,000,000 times more viscous than free-flowing blood.
Arterial bleeding is the #1 cause of death for soldiers today. Many victims would survive if there was a faster, more effective way to stop the bleeding. New technologies like this one are desperately needed to save lives.
So Daniel, let me show you how Hemogrip is going to be used on the field. The first application is a bandage that we make by just taking that liquid that we saw on the bench top, freeze drying it into a material that looks like this. And this is going to be applied for battlefield wounds, car accidents, and even for some surgical applications.
So, pretty incredible. You could put this directly onto a wound. It would sort of meld in there and stop the bleeding immediately.
Right. It has really strong mechanical properties that allow it to form bandages like that.
Around the world, 13 million civilians also suffer severe trauma each year. Matt's developed a version of chitosan that can help in everyday emergencies.
We've developed a foam format. It's a sprayable foam format of Hemogrip. Why don't you take a stab at applying that right on the bench? It's a sprayable, expanding foam that can be used for irregularly shaped wounds and surgical wounds where patients have bleeding disorders.
But getting the bandage on is only half the battle. Matt's figured out an ingenious way to get it off.
Now, when you get a patient to the hospital and they have a Hemogrip all over their wound, the trauma surgeon is going to want to be able to remove that quickly and easily so that they can identify the injuries and perform surgeries unimpeded. So we're going to actually have you add this reagent into the gel and then just give it a little mix.
So incredible. Wow. So with this reversing agent, we can see that it's back to being liquid blood. So you have an on-off switch for bleeding.
That's right. We can remove the Hemogrip quickly and effectively.
Now that you can actually reverse your BioGrip, this is incredibly useful for the surgeon, for the emergency room physician, to actually see where the bleeding might be and actually go in there and fix the problem.
The journey to the hospital is where patients are especially vulnerable. I wonder what a top trauma surgeon would think about this new breakthrough.
Where do you see the applications for something like this and the unmet need in the world of trauma?
Some would say that our system of applying pressure and using these machines is archaic. And this new device, in its ease of application, really is a game changer for us because it stems bleeding. And again, hemorrhage is a major reason why people die in trauma. We anticipate that this will have applications. You can take this all the way down to your kitchen. And if somebody hurts themselves with a knife or a sharp object, they have hemorrhage, instead of just holding pressure, you can apply this and it will hold the bleeding until you can get to a hospital.
So there's a huge unmet need here, Matt. When might we see this on the market?
Well, all our Hemogrip technologies we expect to see on the market within just a few years.
The odds of surviving an accident are getting better, helped by scientists making molecular-level connections that turn food waste from crustaceans into valuable products for the medical world. Scientists from very different fields are working together, connecting their research in a way that may create a new kind of flying machine. One that is independent, smart, and above all, as agile as a bird in flight. Chris Elias Smith is on a mission to find out if it's possible that the lowly pigeon may hold the secret to advanced unmanned flight.
Every city in the world has thousands of pigeons. They carry diseases, they damage property, they're considered flying rodents. The poor pigeon has a nasty reputation. I'm on my way to Harvard in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the connection between pigeons and futuristic aircraft is being made in a collaboration between biologists and engineers. First up, the biologist, Ivo Ross.
I'm interested in how animals move, and pigeons, they fly as a form of movement, which is a movement that's fascinating to me, and I want to learn more about that.
Pigeons have been well studied for years. There's lots of research data on their motor skills and neurology, for instance. And Evo is capitalizing on this to find out why they are so agile in the air.
What we want to now do is sort of tie all that together and see how they actually use certain visual cues, sensory cues, and actually use that to control their flight.
Okay. So you got one of those little guys in?
So here's a bird. It has a good tail. So if I now, it's called pitch motion. If I do that fairly quickly in this direction, you can see the tail shoot up. So
it goes
the tail
up like this.
spreads and goes up. They have a similar thing with the wing. If I were to rotate the bird, they will extend the wing. In a reaction to that.
Evo's breakthrough came when he noticed how perfectly still they hold their heads. He theorized this might have something to do with their sensory feedback and flight control.
So this is where you let it fly? Yeah, so here we have one perch on one end, and we can let the bird go, and then it will navigate around those obstacles to the other side, and we can study the decisions it makes. It'll probably just fly off. There we go.
So it's really interesting when the bird comes into land, it's, flaring its body, its wings are changing, and every time it's hitting that perch exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of sensory feedback involved there, which is what we want to study. And also they have a specialized wing beat where they flip their wing up, and we actually think that even during the upstroke, they produce aerodynamic forces during this landing maneuver.
To help them slow down, or?
To help them slow down in particular, and stay in the air.
So can we actually see this bird do that as well?
Yeah, we can set up some poles and see if we can get the bird to navigate them.
Excellent.
So one question we're very interested in is, do they really look ahead and plan their paths based on their vision, not on prior knowledge of the configurations of the forest? Even if we provide them with very clear paths through there, they seem to just make a decision last moment when they approach about 1.5 meters in front of the forest. And then they start maneuvering through the widest gaps that are visible at that point.
So this particular kind of movement is incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
So how do you break it down and understand what's going on?
So that's sort of the next step that came after this. So here we want to really know how do they navigate, but in addition to that, you want to know how do they actually implement the control to actually execute these maneuvers. Okay. And that brings us to sort of a next set of experiments where we look at what sensory feedback might be used to actually control their flight paths and their body orientations. The entire world is spinning.
Evo takes me to the lab where he can put the rigid head theory to the test.
What we do is actually put little diodes on the animal, the lights. So these are a little battery pack right here in the front, and we especially a little harness we strap onto the bird. And
a bird backpack.
A bird backpack, indeed. Yeah.
So what are we doing here exactly with the backpack?
So the backpack has these little LEDs on them, little lights that will shine up, and that will allow us to use software to auto-track all these markers, so we don't have to click on every one through our frames.
I see.
So we try to find where its spine is, because we want the markers nicely symmetrically placed. That makes our lives easier.
Never thought I'd be putting a backpack on a pigeon.
So we got 3 on the body, 1 on each wing, and now we're going to put a little stick on its head with an LED on either side. And that will actually give us a head orientation and therefore a gaze. So where the bird is looking is what we really are interested in. Yeah, just set it up top, and it might even fly off, or there we go.
Hey there.
And flip to the other
nice.
side.
So can you tell me exactly what this is?
Yeah, so this is a vertical, basically a big cylinder, and we have the 2 perches up top. We basically try to make it fly in the dark, so we enter the bird in the bottom here, make it fly vertically through there, and then we will rotate these vertical bars. And what that will do is basically let the bird think the world is spinning, and we want to know, is it going to spin with the world?
And so the backpack that we put on the bird is to help you make measurements?
Yeah, it's simply just LEDs, sort of lights on the bird, that we can pick up with 2 cameras that we film with, right from the top, and that will then let us reconstruct its flight paths in 3D.
Very cool.
So we'll set that to rotate, release the bird, and then after the bird has flown through, you can hit the trigger button and we have our data and we go.
So this is triggering the cameras to stop and keep the data that they just got?
Correct. Yep. Okay. Exactly. All right, there we go.
All right, I'm ready.
So the world is spinning. We put our bird in. Hopefully it flies up and trigger. Perfect. Okay, so now our data is saved. We have our bird. Let's go turn the lights on, and then we can see what we got. Sounds good. Bird in the hand. We can actually play and see what we got.
So this is the data that we just recorded?
This is what we just recorded.
So what I can see here are the individual dots that are tracking the motion of the bird as it's going straight up the tunnel. It's really cool, quite mesmerizing at this speed. Because when it happened, it was over like that.
They really stabilized their head during their flight, and that's something we're particularly interested in. So we see that as both, people previously found these sort of head stabilizations and these head motions right before landing, and now this also turns out to be the case in mid-flight, in turning flight, and even in slow flight.
A team of engineers at MIT in nearby Boston are looking at Evo's research. Is it possible that the pigeon might be able to inspire advanced robotic aircraft to fly like real birds?
Now this is where things get interesting. I've built brains before, but hooking them up to artificial bodies brings a host of new challenges. Trying to reproduce the fluidity of natural motion in a mechanical device is tough.
A few years ago, we tried to ask the question, is it even possible to build something like a robotic bird? This was one of the first sort of mechanical birds that are out there. There's a few more out there now. We call this one affectionately the Phoenix. We know that birds do amazing things, dart through forests at high speeds. We never really had good data on how. So Evo's data is some of the first data available to us as engineers, seeing how birds do these amazing things that they do.
Can I actually see this thing working? I'd love to see it.
Let's do it. So Andy has a joystick here that controls some motors on the tail. This one's steering only with a tail here that can move in both directions.
Another attempt to sort of reproduce the kind of control that you actually find on the bird.
That's right.
Great.
You want to hold it?
Yeah.
There we go. Let's grab it. Just make sure to keep your fingers away from the gears.
Unfortunately, it won't work that way. That would be awesome. So you've really flown this thing?
Yeah, so this is our very first autonomous flight,
right? There it is, at
MIT campus here. This is the computer controlling everything. Until we decided it was going to hit that building, we had to turn it on and hit the trash can instead. We've got another plane here, which was our next in the sort of lineage here.
Okay.
We asked, what's something that a bird can do that an airplane can't do? That we could try to understand carefully, right? And we decided that landing on a perch was a good candidate.
So, Joe, you built this plane?
Yes, I did.
What are the major components? What are the important parts, if you will?
Basically, what we have is we have a magnetometer sensor, which senses our magnetic field.
Okay.
We have sort of accelerometers and gyros to sort of give us the pose of the aircraft.
Right.
And then we use sort of advanced techniques to figure out, based on our magnetic field measurements, where the plane is with respect to the wire.
So these are the brains that control this body?
Yes.
Awesome. I want to see this thing in action.
MIT, share the space.
They take me to their motion capture lab. So how does this make the decision to do the maneuver?
So basically what we have is a base station over there, which reads in the measurements from our Vicon motion capture cameras, figures out where the aircraft is, and then executes a control algorithm to determine what the actions in the elevator should be so that it hits the perch.
All right, here goes.
Cool.
The plane lands just like a bird. A lot of engineering has gone into this.
As it comes off the launcher, the cameras pick up and decide how fast it's going. They calculate exactly what it needs to do in order to pitch up and land exactly on the perch. And you can see that the control system is actually deciding what this elevator needs to be commanded to, right?
So it's basically using the insight that these engineers gained from pigeon research. Vision at the last minute to make the right avionic decision. So what have you decided to do as your next level of complexity?
Evo set up these poles and then had the pigeons fly through this forest of poles. And we said, wow, that's really complicated. So what we're going to do is a little bit simpler. We're going to set up 2 poles, and then we're going to try to fly the aircraft through those. But to make it tough, we put the poles closer together than the wingspan of the aircraft.
I see.
So you can't, even if you're perfectly aligned, you can't just fly straight through. You have to do something like this. You have to make the roll really fast.
Right. On 6 sequential flights, the plane navigated through the poles with a 100% success rate. So what kind of applications do you see for this sort of technology once it steps up a little bit more?
Sure. I see some very short-term applications where we're actually making UAVs
get out into places where they just can't go right now, through cities, into a burning building, fighting forest fires, places where you'd like UAVs to go right now that they just can't go.
Robot pigeons coming to a city near you.
Independent smart planes like these ones will be in the skies by 2020. But what else can biology lend engineers? As we learn more about bird navigation and wing aerodynamics, will we see a completely different kind of plane?
Can we shoot it again?
Sure.
The next generation of autonomous aerial vehicles will be able to fly hundreds of miles without the need for humans to guide them. If the connections of birds and planes are helping shape the future of unmanned aviation, can the connection of electricity in automobiles produce better performance than a gas guzzler? With the high cost of fuel and the hazards to the environment, electric cars are the obvious transport of the future. But can they be both affordable and sporty? Karen Bondar is in California to find out why the hottest thing on four wheels is actually on three.
It's the ultimate face-off. The thrill of speed. The adrenaline rush. Some of these monsters use turbochargers. Others burn nitrous oxide. However they do it, drag racing like this is always about one thing: combustion. But maybe not for much longer. Tonight, there's going to be a new car on the grid.
This is the Torque EV Roadster. Yes, it's a high-performance sports car. This is no ordinary road machine. It has incredible acceleration from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
The surprise is the Torque is electric. But that's not all. The technology is a quantum leap ahead of the opposition. This is a whole new breed of sports car. I want to find out exactly what its secrets are. Chris Anthony is CEO of the Torque's manufacturer, Epic.
What I want to start off with is this amazing smooth body of this car. I mean, it looks like something from the future. What is the shell made of?
Well, it's a carbon fiber chassis.
Okay.
So it's the lightest weight composite material we could find to lighten this up as much as we can to get it to go as fast as it can.
The Torque has many of the advanced features you'd expect in a high-performance sports car. Aerodynamic body, Formula One suspension, state-of-the-art braking system. But this vehicle is the outcome of a revolutionary approach to sports car design. For a start, there are only 3 wheels.
One thing people notice in front-wheel drive race cars is that anytime you aggressively corner, you lift the inside rear wheel. So we figured in 4-wheel vehicles, if you're not getting the aid of that traction anyways, why do you even keep the wheel?
Having just 3 wheels gives the Torque 2 major advantages over its rivals. It's 200 pounds lighter, and it has superior road holding.
So you'll see in this topless vehicle,
Yes.
there are a lot of batteries packed into unseen places.
But the Torque's single biggest technology breakthrough is its power plant.
The majority of the weight of the batteries, almost 800 pounds, is between the center tunnel and the front of the vehicle.
56 battery cells contain a remarkable nanomaterial called lithium iron phosphate.
Lithium iron phosphate just holds more charge on each plate, so there's more charge density to each cell.
Their major advantage? They are 60% lighter and deliver 20 times more power than regular car batteries, all thanks to specially designed software.
This is a smart system. If one cell's getting hotter than the rest of the cells, if one cell's releasing more energy, then this management computer takes corrective action.
All this adds up to just one word: performance.
The power going to the motor is actually about 260 kilowatts.
Okay.
It sends that power through the differential to the wheels and puts about 600 foot-pounds of torque down to the ground.
That's roughly the same power as a Ferrari Testarossa, but more torque. 3 wheels and supercharged batteries should give this car the edge over its rivals, in theory.
When it comes to hugging the road, can 3 wheels really be better than 4? I'm about to find out. Hey, Mike.
How you doing?
Pretty
Ready?
good. I am so ready.
It's one hell of a ride. What I'm experiencing is lateral G-force. The higher it is, the better the grip on the road. Most high-performance sports cars can pull just over 1 G. Mike claims the torque can do even better.
That was awesome and terrifying. What did we actually get there?
We got 1.17 lateral Gs, which is exceeding a brand new Corvette.
So we basically blew a brand new Corvette out of the water.
We did.
Man, I am now a believer in the power of the electric car.
Petrol heads, bring it on. Race legal, San Diego. Supercharged street cars will compete over 1/8 of a mile. The torque's making its race debut, and it's causing a stir.
Never seen one before today. This is the first one for this track. Never like that before. I heard some things that might do pretty well. Where do you put the groceries?
Shelby, Camaro, Viper. The torque is taking on the biggest gas guzzlers. To stand a chance, it must finish in less than 12 seconds. But at the start, there's a problem. Its battery powers the wheels so fast that it can't grip the track. But not for long. Over 7 races, it beats some of its toughest rivals.
Done really well. We beat 4 out of 7 petrol cars. Our best time is 9 seconds for the 80 mile. 0 to 60 times are under 4.5 seconds. We're losing traction. We need to get some wider, fatter tires on there. Other than that, we're doing really good.
Production of the torque will triple by 2015. The price, $65,000. The future is electric.
By 2020, global sales of electric cars could exceed 20 million, with the market for lithium-ion batteries worth $25 billion. Our need to reduce dependency on fossil fuels extends to the ultimate connection, atomic, limitless energy, perhaps possible through the elusive science of nuclear fusion. In 1917, humankind split the atom to make weapons and energy. It says something about our species that we created a destructive reaction that rarely occurs anywhere else in the universe. What does occur, and all the time, in the sun, is nuclear fusion. That's when 2 atomic nuclei collide and join, creating an extraordinary amount of energy. Unlike fission, fusion provides safe, clean, and virtually limitless power. The challenge is to create a fusion power station that does not require the massive amount of energy input required to produce fusion in nature. Now, several of the world's wealthy countries have teamed up for the most expensive scientific experiment ever conducted. R.T. Brassard investigates.
At a cost of 13 billion euros, everything about the ITER project in France is off the scale. workers are currently building an earthquake-proof 360,000-ton structure the size of 60 football fields. The hope is that the reactor will produce enough energy to continuously power 100,000 homes. It sounds like the perfect energy solution for the planet. But there's just one stumbling block.
Fusion is sort of the perfect way to make energy. It's safe. It doesn't produce any long-term pollution, right? It just has one problem. It's really very hard to do.
This vast project is an extraordinary gamble because no one knows for sure if it will work. There are 34 countries involved, each providing resources, but at the forefront is the core challenge, the actual fusion process. I'm off to the Culham Fusion Research Centre in Oxfordshire, home to the fusion reactor known as JET. The central challenge is to hold the hot, unstable fuel, a plasma of hydrogen isotopes, inside the reactor without touching the sides. If that happens, there's rapid cooling and the reaction stops.
So this is a one-to-one replica of the inside of the jet vessel. It's used to train engineers and technicians. You can see that it's kind of a donut-shaped chamber that we use to contain this plasma at a very high temperature required for fusion. So we have to replicate the process that creates the energy inside the sun. We want to do it here. So we have these very powerful magnets that surround this chamber and create this, let's say, magnetic bottle that contains the very superheated gas at the temperature required for fusion to occur.
So what you have is the plasma sort of levitating through, it's not contacting the sides at all?
Exactly. So in JET, we have demonstrated that this process actually works. We can create fusion, but we create fusion for a few seconds. Now we have to create it for a much longer period of time.
That means a stronger magnetic field. The trouble is, the power needed to create a strong enough magnetic field to hold the plasma in place for longer is enormous. So far, more than the power the reactor generates. The best JET has been able to produce is 70% of the power put in. And that was just once. The results are usually worse. And maintaining a temperature of 150 million degrees Celsius demands yet more power. The ongoing tests have been using 140,000 volts to keep the plasma away from the chamber walls.
On JET, we were able to get some fusion energy, but we had to put energy in to get energy out. On ITER, what we're hoping is that we will get energy out with minimal amounts of energy going in, perhaps even zero.
That's because once the reaction is up and running, the intention is that it will be self-sustaining. I want to know what made this breakthrough possible, and whether this new reactor could bring us any closer to our dream of an almost limitless supply of cheap, clean energy. Part of the answer is the fuel. There's an abundant supply of one of the hydrogen isotopes used, deuterium, in seawater, just 1 gallon of which could produce the same energy as 300 gallons of gasoline. Most important, though, is sustaining the reaction. Any impurities in the chamber will disrupt and stop it. The team are testing how carbon in the chamber affects the plasma ring. Tests like this one are critical to reactor design, and today I'm taking part. We're going to be heating an amount of fuel the size of a grain of sand to 10 times hotter than the middle of the sun. At the touch of a button, I'm going to make my own star. How long will it last?
So if you want to press that button there and say starting shot.
Starting shot.
And if you do start and then confirm and get
Start. Confirm.
you'll see a pink flash in that window. There you go.
Yeah, it's a star. It was a short-lived star. The carbon in the chamber caused my plasma ring to lose stability. With the help of high-speed cameras, the team analysed today's reaction. It lasted less than half a second.
plasma is very energetic, and it does tend to wobble around a lot.
There's flashing and distortion.
That's right. Those bulges, those filaments which you can see sort of erupting out of the edge of the plasma are kind of like a solar flare, and so we need to use magnetic fields to confine it, to keep it as steady as possible.
Solving these problems is critical to cracking the dream of nuclear fusion. And there's confidence here that they'll be successful by 2026, when ITER is due to be switched on. And I can't help thinking, what if we were to throw some of the trillions we spend on polluting fossil fuels today on fusion reactors instead? We could make the dream a reality much sooner.
2026 may be a way off, but in the grand scheme, it's just a blink of the eye. And as ITER advances to completion, nuclear fusion is probably now no longer a question of if, only a question of when. Machines equipped to learn. Bandages coupled with biology. Electric cars that are fast and fun. And limitless energy that draws on the power of the stars. These are just a